we are going to talk about HONOR MagicBook 14 of 2022. Two of its features impressed me. One is its 14-inch body boasts a 60W RTX 2050 GPU, declaring a total power of 70W. Another is its 75 watt-hours battery, bigger than most 15-inch large-screen laptops. And the leading OS turbo technology of HONOR could avoid CPU power surplus, prolong battery life and improve performance. Today let's review this new laptop. First, the specs. i5-12-500H, 4P8E, 12 cores and 16 threads. 60-watt RTX 2050 graphics, 16 gigs LPDDR5 4800 MHz memory, 512 gigs Samsung SSD, 14-inch, 3x2, 2160 by 1440 IPS screen, 60 Hz, 100% sRGB gamut. The price is here. Based on its specs, its battery and GPU power is ahead of the counterparts. But higher refresh would be better. Its exterior follows the classic design of HONOR. Looks like the MagicBook V14 last year. There are two options, Mystic Silver and Space Gray. Metal build, simple design, 145 degrees rotation, glass cover. The camera is on the top. 3:2 aspect ratio makes its bezel thin. Screen to body reaches 88.15%. Bow panel, 96.4% sRGB volume, 94.2% sRGB coverage. OLOR accuracy is acceptable. Average delta E 1.1, max delta E 3.55. Red deviation is big. 361 nits. 6500 K temperature. It's overall good. Good accuracy, resolution and ratio. Suitable for work. Power button is on upper right with Touch ID. 1.5mm key travel feels normal. Touchpad's tapping feels good, but sliding not smooth. The height is 15.9 to 16.9mm. 1.56 kilos. 200 grams heavier than same size iGPU Ultrabook. Notably, it has a small 100-watt gallium nitride adapter, and can fast charge phone. I/O comes with two USB 3.2 General 2 Type-C and a 3.5mm combo jack on the left. One USB 3.2 General 1 Type-A and HDMI 2.0 on the right. But I think it's not enough. One Type-A is for mouse only. Now, let's test its performance. MagicBook 14 is the first one using Magic OS for Windows. It isn't a tailored OS. It can invoke the standard performance of Windows, optimizing scenarios like office work and image rendering. So users can get better performance and battery life. It is similar to Windows 11. Don't worry. So the change is about the optimization, the OS Turbo. It can accurately identify the scenarios, which requires a refined tech of CPU. It seems like the DPTF settings. But HONOR said, this is the design of CPU. There's no button to start it. We can't have a comparative test. It's hard to explain. You could take it as a silent transforming. So we only could check its test score. Maybe it is better because of OS Turbo. First is Cinebench R20. In R20 single thread, i5-12-500H gets 660 scores, better than 11th Gen Intel. As for multi-thread, this computer is a slow starter. First run gets 4,700 scores, then 4,900. First round, CPU runs to 80 watts but drops quickly because of thermal throttling, so the latter part can't match the stable benchmark. As the fan works harder, thermals perform well. CPU reached between 58 and 65 watts. At that time P is at 3.5 GHz, E at 2.7 GHz. This is for noise control. Heavy app won't max out the fan but fuel it steadily. A large file only needs more power in the first few seconds. So the machine can work quietly. In short, 50-watt CPU in a 14-inch body is very well. Next is GPU. RTX 2050 with 45 watts basic power and 15 watts dynamic boost. 3D Mark Time SPY gets 4037 scores. FSE 5017. Superposition 2228. About 10% higher than Watt 1650T, 9% than 50 Watt 2050. Only few 14-inch notebooks have 2050, so it performs well. In short, it is good at releasing performance. CPU could run at 50W, GPU could also reach the max. Except in benchmark, the OS Turbo of HONOR can optimize its power for light apps. Like the standby mode, for other 12th Intel CPUs, their power could reach 3W, but the MagicBook 14 only needs 1W. Except output rendering, in most cases, the load fluctuates. It can't work at high load all the time. So at low load, especially without charging, when I close the software and leave, then during this period, MagicBook 14 consumes low energy and lasts longer. So it can solve the high Encore power in 12th Gen Intel. With a 75 Wh battery, it reaches 13 hours and 13 minutes in PC Mark 10. Pretty good result. Next is game performance. With native resolution, DOTA2 highest settings as 113 FPS, CSGO 315 FPS, Apex Legends 91 FPS. Pretty smooth. In 1080p the FPS will boost. The refresh rate of this screen is 60 Hz, high FPS helps little, so native resolution is enough for online games. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Ultra settings get 38 FPS at native resolution. It gets 52 FPS in 1080p, and 60 FPS with lower settings. 2050 GPU is hard to support 3A games. This small-size Ultra notebook is suitable for casual games. Content creation. Adobe software. PS 924 scores, A 772 scores, and PR 602 scores. It is close to that of ThinkBook 14 Plus, with higher scores of PS and A. This should be the help of OS Turbo. Simple PS and video editing could be handled. And, for 3D modeling software, we had SpecView Test. It is smooth in running CAD, MATLAB and other software. Besides daily apps, MagicBook 14 also supports interconnection and multi-screen collaboration. It adds sharing mode between PC and pad. The mouse and keyboard of PC can be used on pad. And with HONOR Share, after connecting, files can be transferred between PCs. The rate could reach 70 megs per second at most, just like AirDrop but almost double the rate. Unfortunately, in the lockdown, we can't compare pad and other machines. The delivery has resumed, but slow. So a brief is ready. I can show you the device clone function. Like phone clone, you can transfer data between computers. Easy to operate. Install device clone or computer housekeeper. Click the next button after linking. This function supports HONOR's and other brands, even Win 7, but requires HONOR receiver. Based on my experience, files in C and D drive can be transferred, excluding software, system settings and shortcuts. This function is in initial stage. Save time for the new user, but it can't move the whole like phones. The function is still improving. I will keep up on it. Well, next is disassembly. Easy to do it. Remove all screws on the bottom. Its internal layout seems like that of MagicBook V14. You could see some updates. The speakers have become more compact, giving more space for 75 Wh battery. SSD is PM9A1, PCIe Gen 4, 512 gigs. Sequential read is 6700, write 4800. Write out of cache 700. RAM is LPDDR5 4800 MHz. Close to DDR5 4800 MHz, but latency is longer at 114 nanoseconds for energy saving. Wi-Fi card is soldered, Intel AX201, supporting Wi-Fi 6. Next is thermals. It adopts 2 heat pipes and fans. One thick, one thin. Each fan has 101 blades. Increase the air volume. Check its performance. In stress FPU, CPU is at 91 degrees. Package 50 watts, IA 45. P at 3.3, E at 2.6. Stress GPU. Under 8 anti-aliasing, this GPU can't reach 60 watts. Close the anti-aliasing. GPU is at 74 degrees. 60 watts 1635 MHz. Dual test. CPU is at 79 degrees, package 25 watts, IA 20.8. GPU at 73 degrees, 45 watts, 1612 MHz. I don't have device at home to test noise, but it feels like between 45 to 48 decibels. Better than many gaming laptops. So does exterior temperature. The middle of the keyboard is the hot area, but not too hot, won't exceed 45 degrees. In short, HONOR MagicBook 14 is good at thermals. 60-watt 2050 with 14-inch size, reaches 70 watts in dual test. Among similar PCs, it can be the first tier. Now you've learned about it. As usual, 3 pros and cons for you. Pros. First, longer battery life of the same size. 14-inch notebook usually have 50 to 60 watt-hours, but it reaches 75, even bigger than some 15-inch ultrabooks. And HONOR OS Turbo optimized the battery life. It has lower CPU power in low load among similar PCs. Performance release is good. It has 60W RTX 2050D GPU, 70W power can be reached at dual stress test, higher than ThinkBook 14 Plus, it is terrific among counterparts. Third, DGPU version has 100 watts GAN adapter. Since last year, Ultrabook has used 65 watts PD charger, but 100 watts is less. GAN adapter is small for PCs, can fast charge phone, easy to carry out. Next is its disadvantages. First, ports are less, only one USB-A port. USB-A is highly used in daily life, like the mouse, keyboard, USB drive. It may be inconvenient for work. You may often plug in and out. Second, no Thunderbolt 4. It has 2 Type-C ports, enough for normal situation, but Thunderbolt 4 is the pros for Intel, but it doesn't have, quite regretful. Third, sliding touchpad feels stuck. Hard to slide the cursor, not smooth. Surface design may be unfledged. In general, as a 14-inch all-around notebook, it is full-fledged. Good at battery life and performance release. Interconnection of HONOR also be equipped. As for cons, mainly in port scalability, 2C1A can be used but not satisfying. If you need one good at endurance with a small size and part of its performance is available, like businessperson or student, it is good. Good endurance for your lessons and online games, even for video editing. Its exterior is low-key, you can use it in schools and offices. Well, that's all. Please give me a like, support us. Please follow us on WeChat official account. I will evaluate one computer on it. This laptop may be a good deal or not, but all we want is to provide info and guidance. This is BIBA Laptops. I'm Jawan. See you next time.